Pero what if yung kalaki niya ng buhok? Ito malaki.
My projector's very unhappy with me. Oh, it turned off. How are you? Okay. All right. Astronomy people, quick thing that I want to just check base with you guys on. What did you guys notice with the timeline when you were looking at it? When it came to discoveries? There was huge gaps, right? Because you had like the initial thing, and then you'd have something else happen, and then something else happen, and then a big gap, and then suddenly all these things happened. Yeah? So, oh, you can't really see that on the screen. I'm recording it anyway. So, why do you think that happened? Why is there such big gaps? Like initially, and then all of a sudden we cluster real close together. Technology. So that's the big factor for astronomy when we're thinking about astronomy knowledge is technology was a very big science feature. So when we talk about science features, we're talking about different things that influence science ideas, such as different perspectives, societal beliefs, technology advances, human needs, that sort of stuff. So back here, we're struggling to learn about astronomy because we don't have the equipment to study it. We can notice that once we have the telescope being discovered, there's another cluster of information that we discover because the telescopes allow us to see things. But there's still a huge gap until we can get actual like equipment out into outer space and things like that. So that's the first thing to keep in mind with timeline. Now you have a choice when it comes to timelines. You can put them just in like a set order like that. That way they're nice, evenly spaced apart to make it easy to read. Or you can actually do it properly with where they are in time. And it's a reference to time. So that's something that you need to keep in mind when we're thinking about astronomy. The other thing to keep in mind is that there's obviously a lot of societal influences. So some of our astronomy knowledge was slowed down because of things like the church, that the Catholic Church wasn't allowing people like Galileo and Copernicus to speak their ideas because it was conflicting with their beliefs. And they didn't want to lose their power. Yep. There wasn't one that came up with the Big Bang Theory, but there was a monk that came up with the idea that the universe is limitless. So it was, I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Bruno, and he suggested that the universe was infinite. So he had this thought experiment that if you stand at the edge of the universe and you fire an arrow into the universe, it's going to hit a point and stop. And then you should stand on that new point and fire the next arrow and it'll keep going. So his thought experiment stated that the universe is infinite. And he also argued that since the universe is infinite, we are just one planet that has life and that there must be other planets with life. And he was in a lot of trouble with the church because the church was like, no, Earth is the only planet with life. It's God's creation. Bruno argued no because he was a monk. Bruno argued that God's creation is actually larger than what they had thought because there must be other planets with life and it's limitless. So it was really interesting to hear his story. He unfortunately was executed for his beliefs. He was burnt at the stake. Copernicus had similar issues because he was proposing that the Earth was not the center of the universe, but he didn't have the data to prove himself. Galileo had the telescope, so he actually did have the data to prove it. But again, he was punished by the church because it went against the teachings of what they had. And if you challenge that one thing, what else is then up for debate? So they were very scared about losing power. So that influenced, again, a lot of our societal understanding, of our astronomy understanding. But eventually we learned that there's actually more to the universe than that. And then, like I said, technology was a big factor. The space race with the Russians, the US and the Russians, that also was a great influence that really forced a lot of people into space and doing a lot of space travel. So you see a big cluster around the 60s. And then now we've slowed down because the space race is over. It's probably going to speed up again because at some point we're going to have to leave this planet. Yeah?
So is it true that the sun is coming?
Is it true that?
The sun is coming.
Yes. So the sun is going through its own life cycle, and at some point, even if we don't like screw over this planet, the sun is going to explode and engulf us.
Still horribly.
So we need to get off this planet, and that's obviously going to be a pressure to get us into space. Yeah, it won't happen for a very long time. So it's more likely we're going to run out of resources on the planet before the sun's going to blow.
The sun is still halfway to
Yeah. So it's more likely we are going to run out of resources on this planet and we need to leave it.
Yeah.
All right. So, what I wanted to do for you guys for today's lesson was just to think about the history of astronomy knowledge and how it's developed over time. So that's why I wanted you guys to look at those different ideas. All right. That's all for you guys today.
So what?
Interstellar is a really good movie, and the science in there is actually correct. So, yeah, and they published some scientific papers from it too. So I do highly recommend you watch Interstellar.